We have another blue box in front of the camera, don't we? Let's see which one it is. It appears to be a Benchmade 580 Barrage box. Let's see what's inside. Hi gang, Rob here. It's the morning of 26 February 2014. And yes, we got a blue box from Benchmade. This one, a guest blade from my YouTube viewer and sharpening customer, Dennis. We've got a plastic baggie with a little bit of Benchmade literature. The lovely microfiber drawstring pouch. An axis lock tag, but not just any axis lock, an axis assist. Yeah, we're going to take a look today at the Benchmade 580 Barrage. Kind of a neat little knife if you're into assisted openers. Here's what it is. It's not like just a reshaped griptilian with an assist mechanism. There's a little more to it than that. What we have here, my friends, is a blade 3.6 inches long. Kind of a gorgeous spear point, don't you think? Made of 154 cm steel, one of my favorite cutting and durability steels. Thickness of that blade, 0.121 inches. The finish is Benchmade's really attractive light stonewash over satin. I just love it. Designer of this blade, as you can see by his logo, Warren Osborne. Kind of a non-Osborne-like Osborne design. Almost favors Alan Elishewitz, doesn't it, with that sort of curved swedge spear point blade. Just a great blade shape for both utility and tactical use. The handle on this knife is 4 3/4 inches long, and it is basically a stainless steel frame, fairly skeletonized, clad with some not Norol GTX. These are Valox handles. Sorry guys, my reinforced plastic nomenclature sometimes goes awry. Essentially, you've got a knife that's completely constructed with the stainless steel frame, and then the scales are just fastened to the frame. They really have no structural value. 1, 2, 3, 4 screws holding the polymer slabs onto the stainless. The knife is completely functional without them. The pocket clip is not standard on this particular example. Dennis sent me 2 knives for sharpening, actually 3, but 2 of them Benchmades. The other one was a 940 wearing a Parkerized split arrow clip, which is the clip that comes on the Barrage. So I have a feeling the old painted Emerson clip might have come off the 940. I don't mind that actually. Sort of a big clunky black handle, kind of goes well with a big clunky black clip, and the 940 so svelte and beautiful, looks better I think with the Parkerized split arrow. So good design eye, Dennis, if you did that. Okay, moving on. Thickness of this handle, 0.65 inches, almost over 5/8 of an inch thick. And the weight, 4.2 ounces, which is not bad for a pretty large knife and a very hand-filling handle. Not bad at all. Could it be lighter? Maybe. Does it need to be? Absolutely not. So moving on from this beautiful blade, we've got some fairly standard Benchmade thumb studs, although they are black coated in this example, but they're the normal a long barrel, short terrace, T6 Torx 2-piece thumb stud. Axis lock mechanism we've all seen. Let's talk about this handle a little bit. Not my favorite aspect of this knife. For the same reason I don't like the large full-size Griptilian, I kind of don't like this knife. Just kind of doing a little knuckle thumping here. Frankly, it feels and sounds cheap with this handle. Would I prefer this knife in G10? Yeah, and I know they make some different handles on the Barrage. There's a bolstered model, and maybe there's a sprint run with G10. I'm not quite sure of that. The mechanism is Benchmade's Axis Assist, which is a spring-assisted axis lock knife. So in addition to the Omega springs in the axis lock, there is a coil spring in the knife that once you break it over the cam, so to speak, the spring takes over and flings it out to full deployment, much like an emissary. What's the other knife I reviewed last week? Oh, the volley. Basically, the knife has the same mechanism as the volley. In fact, if you remember my volley video, you'll know that the mechanism and frame in the volley are from a mini Barrage, the little brother to this knife. So, you know, my two big negatives about the Barrage will always be and have always been sort of a cheesy handle material and a knife that is assisted and frankly would be much better off if it were not. Yes, you can de-assist the Benchmade Axis Assist mechanism, but then you end up with a knife that has no advantage of being assisted and is weaker than its manual counterpart or manual cousins in the axis lock line, because the mechanism is made more complicated and less robust to accommodate the assist mechanism. So when you take the spring out, you're just left with a less robust knife. If you really like the assist mechanism, and you know, assisted knives do have their place. They are not, in my estimation, faster than manual knives for people who have normal strength and dexterity in their hands. Let me show you what I mean. Just happen to have here waiting to come to the sharpening bench a Benchmade 710 from my buddy Josh. Let's open both these knives. I'm going to open the Benchmade with my offhand also. Okay, they're both out fast. You know, did the Barrage open faster? Yes. But did you just see me close the 710? Let's see what we have to do to close the Barrage. Not quite as fast, is it? I really can't do that with one hand. There you go. Now, having said that, if you're someone with limited strength or dexterity in your hands, maybe you have arthritis, maybe maybe that move of building a little tension behind your thumb and giving an authoritative flick isn't possible for you. You know, maybe all you can do is nudge. Well, then an assisted knife is what you need if you're carrying it specifically for emergency defensive purposes. And is it a big deal to use your offhand in sort of a large motor skill fashion to close it? No, because it saved your life. But for general use with people with normal dexterity and strength in their hands, a conventional manual Benchmade axis lock knife is faster and more pleasurable to use than an axis assist. Unless you just like to show your friends who aren't knife guys, ooh, look at my fast spring assisted knife. Ooh, watch guys, watch. Ooh, yeah. And you know, there is a market for that, obviously. However, again, one of these knives that I really wish were not assisted. Have I beat that horse enough? Okay, we'll quit. Now let's talk about the rest of the story here. Do we have great lockup? Yes, we do. We've got great side to side, great up and down. There is a little bit of movement in the mechanism, but it's pretty minuscule. Not uncommon with axis assist knives, by the way. Their pivot doesn't quite have the same tensioning method that a regular conventional pivot in a manual knife has. And frankly, they like to be a little free. And when I'm telling you minuscule play, I mean barely perceptible. The blade shape, as I said, just wonderful for all-around use. Enough belly for utility, a fine enough tip, great piercer. That swedge definitely lends to its slim profile, going into soft flesh and parting ribs and all that good stuff that a defensive knife might need to do. The ricasso on this knife, not badly executed. I did not reprofile it because there's just not a lot of room for error on this knife. I didn't want to take any more material than was necessary, and didn't want to mess up the closing of this knife. It doesn't look bad at all. That's a factory ricasso. You can see the edge does flare up the ricasso just a tiny bit after sharpening. But all in all, a very well ground blade. Ergonomics of the handle, that's always extremely important. I mean, what is a handle on a knife? Does it make a fashion statement, or does it need to accommodate the human hand? Well, it needs to do both, doesn't it? And you're not going to hear me say this much because, although I am a loyal and charter TNPer, you are not going to normally hear me just kill a knife for lack of jimping, because sometimes, most of the time in fact, a well-designed handle can alleviate or eliminate the need for jimping. This handle is a little slippery, and because your forefinger and thumb actually rest on satin finished stainless steel, they just want to slide. The thumb ramp, not very steep. The finger choil, although it's deep, it's very gradual. I don't feel particularly secure on this knife. I mean, my thumb wants to slip more than it wants to stay put. That, I think, is a bit of a problem in this design. And yeah, you don't hear me say that too darn often, do you? But I don't feel secure in this knife in a stabbing move or a thrusting motion. Also, in the saber grip, this safety lock, I think you should be able to see it. It's right here. Your thumb feels that moving. It's sort of a down and forward move to engage it. And when you lay your thumb down the spine of that knife in the saber grip, it's unsettling to feel that safety move. Now, if I lock it, it's really bothersome. And locking that in the forward position, of course, prevents closing and opening of the knife. Okay, what about the hammer grip? Really comfortable, really comfortable. No hot spots either down here in the pinky and ring finger or in the web of the hand. In the side or pinch grip, I can be back here. I can come forward. My index finger has enough room to lie on that finger guard and ricasso area without being in danger of the blade. It's a little cumbersome in that it doesn't really want to lie completely sideways like you'd want it to, and the handle gets a little fat in that grip. A draw cut grip, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And reverse grip. Not bad. Because of the lack of jimping up front, though, you would really want a natural position for your thumb to ride in, and I really don't have one. Just, it's not secure. Not a real secure grip. So I guess, and I didn't premeditate these comments in any way. I just sort of let the camera roll, go through my progression looking at a knife, and let the chips fall where they may. Because I know some of you, like 4 or 5 of you, might watch my reviews to decide whether or not to buy a knife. And the Barrage seems to run in that, what, 125 range in this configuration, the base handle, satin finished blade. You know, that puts it, well, puts it firmly in the same price range as the 710, doesn't it? You know, which one of these knives would I buy for a large everyday carry folder or a tactical blade? Well, it's really not a contest, is it? I'm a 710 guy all the way in that regard. Blade steel, I like the D2 a little better. The mechanism, of course, I prefer the manual axis. The 710 has its own handle issues, but it's better than the Barrage. The handle might not be, actually it's longer in the 710. And I always think of the 710 as having a handle that's a little too short. But, so, you know, kind of a similarly sized knife. The 710's a little longer, about the same price. A little better handle material. Steel is debatable, just different. I guess you get an assist mechanism. You trade off a less expensive handle material for an assist mechanism, essentially. And a knife that probably isn't as well designed for a defensive role. It wouldn't be my first choice, I guess I would say. But one thing, you know, it is from the sharpening bench. It's somebody else's knife. It's just been sharpened. Shall we see if it'll cut? I think it does. It does okay. I always like to try to make a little bit of an S-curve cut. Yeah. That's one thing it will do, boys and girls, is cut. Great blade design for slicing. That, I guess you would call it a saber grind and a spear point sort of profile, but it's flat ground from about 70% of the blade down. Comes to an edge that is adequately thin for great slicing, but still robust enough for heavier use and utility. And 154 cm, as Benchmade executes it, takes a ferocious edge. Probably my most prominent user and studier of Benchmade's 154 cm is Campfire Talk. The Mini Griptilian is one of his favorite EDC blades. I sharpened his mini grip for him a year ago almost, and he still raves about how sharp it is. So, and he uses his knives, guys. So Benchmade's 154 cm takes no backseat to any super steel. And it does take a wicked edge. It's one of those steels, as I always say, that helps you find the razor edge within it. That's all I have for this short review. Yeah, short by my standards. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and Dennis's Barrage are sharp.